Peter Burns of the SEC Network joining us. PB, this might be a first that we've done Zoom on TexAgs. I don't know if we've done Zoom before.
I was going to say, I wouldn't put me on camera either, so I don't blame you, honestly, at this point. So no, man, it's fun. I'm in my palatial room, which is a joke over here in Omaha. It's like a little jail cell here for the next basically 10 days, where we only got 2 teams in this year, man. It's weird. First time since 2016 we haven't had at least 3 teams out here in Omaha.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about that. I find it interesting. Look, I know the SEC hasn't had the year that we've come to expect, but the year we've come to expect, and I'm talking about for all sports, right? But the year that we've come to expect is almost impossible, right, Peter? Like, you got 2 teams from the SEC in the College World Series, more than everybody else. You won the national basketball or the college basketball national championship. Football, yeah, Big Ten won again, but like football was right there, right? How do you kind of categorize the SEC as a year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously basketball was that good. I mean, softball, you would go back and look at it, and I've talked about it too, David, is the fact that football was the weakest of the national sports, which is wild to think about. You know, when you had that run from Florida back in like 2007 all the way to, I mean, really since Ohio State or Michigan had won it. It was, you had one or two years we had Clemson, but outside of that, the SEC reigned supreme. And I think what it is part of the changing of the guard as far as, name, image, and likeness in the transfer portal, where it used to be you could have Nick Saban go ahead and have his third string linebacker is going to be a future NFL guy. And now that third string linebacker doesn't want to wait. They want to go out there and play as a freshman. They want to go play somewhere. They want to go transfer as opposed to kind of, just being part of the depth. And Kirby Smart was, has heard a little bit of that as well, too. I mean, pre-transfer portal, or when it was so prevalent, Kirby had the same mentality as Saban. So I think football has, I wouldn't say it's hurt. It just created more parity to where, the haves and the have-nots are not that big of a jump because all of the schools in this conference care about football. You go back and look at the Big Ten, and there's probably 4 teams that really, truly, are all in on football, maybe 5, out of their 18 that they got in that conference now or whatever, that the rest of it, kind of just are seat fillers right now. So, I mean, SEC football is still going to be good, but the problem is you're going to have a bunch of people kind of beating up on each other right now.
Talking to Peter Burns here on TexAgs Live. PB, what do you think about this Arkansas-LSU matchup? Because I hate that we're getting it this early. I mean, if you're a baseball fan, that's going to be the one to watch.
Yeah, and I talked to NCAA people last night. They're like, the fact that this game is going to be the night game over at 6 p.m., like, it's just, I mean, I've already gone over to Rocco's and talked to them. Like, the Jell-O shot deal is going to be out of control. Like, they had to go call in a different manufacturer for Saturday, simply because there's going to be so many people on that part. So thank goodness it wasn't like a 1 p.m. game. But that's just the way that the bracket falls. I've heard people say, "Oh, they should reseed." I'm like, no, man, that's how you do it in March Madness. You don't reseed it. So, allow Murray State to have an opportunity rather than Murray State, who's really the dark horse here and kind of the Cinderella story, to have their opportunity. And if Arkansas has to beat LSU, well, sooner or later they're going to have to play them somewhere. So you might as well see the best of the best. You'll see Zach Root versus Cade Anderson more than likely in the first round. And that's 2 Friday night starters. LSU has set up really well for super regionals. They'll have some success here, but man, Arkansas, David, I mean, you go back and look at 2018 where they missed a pop-up. Like, there's not a college baseball fan. You can hate Arkansas all you want, but you got to love and respect the man that Dave Van Horn is. And for Arkansas to win it would be 6 straight SEC teams that have won it with 6 different programs. It'd be, I mean, you look at LSU, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and then it would be Arkansas. It'd be unbelievable.
Talking to Peter Burns here on TexAgs Live. PB, it's been a couple weeks, but let's just get your thoughts on A&M baseball. Obviously, hugely disappointing season. Moments of brilliance, honestly, like, the LSU series, the Arkansas series, the Tennessee series. Then the Missouri series happens, and it kind of goes out the wayside. But considering that Coach Early's making some changes, he's coming back for another year, and how they played against top teams, what do you think about the future of Aggie baseball here in 26?
Yeah, I think it's to be determined, right? I mean, I go back and look, and that was one of the most jaw-dropping things that I saw all season long was the Missouri series, and the fact that this Missouri team hadn't won. And again, you can lose one game because you're just kind of asleep at the wheel. But when you get swept, and really that last game was almost a run rule, I'm like, did this team quit? Were they done? I mean, I know, listen, they were banged up. They were injured, all season long. But I think the most important thing is when I saw Jace come up at SEC baseball tournament and go to bat for Michael Early, I'm like, all right, there is some love, there's some passion for those players. And that's one of the reasons why he was considered for that job. You absolutely give him another year to kind of get it right. But A&M is one of those programs that I've covered here in Omaha. And that's the expectation, and that's the fans expect it, the players expect it, the facilities are good. So to me, you give him another year, and you just end up hoping for the best.
Are you sick of house settlement talk as a talk show host, as a studio analyst?
Yeah, it just it's. Like if you're in this like little niche part of the media, you kind of enjoy it because it gives you something. I feel bad for Ross Dellinger because every single damn article he has to write has like, here's the latest update. I'm in Washington, D.C. for this trial deal. Sometimes I don't really want to know how the sausage is made. Like whenever I go to a fast food restaurant, I don't want to be in the kitchen. I just want to give me my food and let me go on with my life. So, at least the coaches just want some damn clarity. And I think that's the biggest deal right now. I mean, they're in DC right now, just trying to figure out if they can get some kind of national standard. And I'm like, all right, well, just tell me when it's done. That's all I care. And I mean, the state by state idea is just an absolute cluster F, but hopefully we get a little bit closer to some type of, answer for college sports.
It's probably hard to ask you this while you're in Omaha, but in a month we'll be in Atlanta. You ready for that circuit to come?
Yeah, and honestly, I'm more excited about it this year than a lot of years because it felt like we are collectively, even as college football fans, are more in the dark about individual teams than we ever have before. You're a little bit different because you guys are boots on the ground there in College Station, but SEC and college football fans, for the most part, they didn't get a chance to go to practice. There's not a lot of coverage on it because the coaches don't want to put out a bunch of information. A lot of these teams didn't do spring games. So this will truly be the first time that we can ask coaches about their teams because normally we found out a lot about their teams in spring ball. There was a lot of coverage. We saw the depth charts, all of this stuff. None of that exists anymore. It's all state secrets because they're deathly afraid of this transfer portal. So I'm looking forward to it. And again, I'd be lying if I told you if I knew who was going to win the SEC. Normally I have a good feel for it. I think it's as wide open as it's ever been in probably, at least 30, 40 years.
I think part of the reason for that is you got a lot of questions in the entire conference with the quarterback, right? And also just like every year that we have the portal and guys going in and out and then Georgia and Texas losing all these guys to the draft, you don't always replenish what you lost. Programs like Georgia usually did in Alabama, but it's a different world now.
Well, and that's what it is the fact that come full circle in our conversation, how we started. It used to be the fact that Georgia, when they replenished or Texas replenished the draft, they would have, the third string guy who was great. He pops up and he plays. Now we don't know. That guy might have transferred out. And again, go back and look at Ole Miss. Ole Miss crushed it in the transfer portal last year. And guess what? It didn't enter. It didn't make a difference because it wasn't a college football playoff squad. So, I respect the teams that, like Elko, and I feel like everything I've heard from down there that he's used the transfer portal as more as a Band-Aid as opposed to like surgery, which I think is the right way to do it. Like people have to come out there and love your team and love the environment and love Aggie football. I think that's the only way that you're going to have a national championship team. Like, I just don't feel like in today's world, especially like how deep the SEC is, you can't just have mercenaries. You can have one or two players that are going to fill some spots and some roles and some depth. But if that's how you're building a team, I think you're going to have, a bunch of 8-4, 9-3 teams that won't be playoff ready.
All right, here's one for you. Who's got more pressure this year, Kalen DeBoer or Brian Kelly? Because there's a lot of pressure on both guys, but for different reasons.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think top to bottom, it ends up being Kalen DeBoer. First game, even though Alabama's playing Florida State, it's definitely Brian Kelly versus Clemson. I mean, LSU's lost 5 straight openers. That is unacceptable. And I talked to BK a couple of weeks ago about it. I was like, dude, what are you changing everything? He's like, I will effing change everything that we can, basically. Like he's like, we're gonna win that game. And I mean, and that's what a coach is supposed to say at this point. And but the thing is with Alabama, for Kalen DeBoer, Alabama fans don't know what it's like to be mediocre for an extended period of time. I mean, like Saban might have a year where they would go 10-2, and that was considered mediocre, but then he would bracket back with a national championship. For Kalen DeBoer, you definitely cannot backslide from 9-3, and that's if you do, buddy, that's a bad situation for everybody.
Talking to Peter Burns here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, so I know we can't really answer these questions because there's not enough information, but let's just take a stab at it.
Yeah.
Middle tier team that you think could take a step up this year, for instance, what South Carolina did last year, right? A team that, but then they became a real player at the end of the year. Who's a team in that middle tier that you're like, I'm buying stock on them potentially?
Yeah, I know it's sad. I mean, it's sad to say because I don't normally consider a middle tier, but I was down in LSU, and the amount of time that I saw in talking to Blake Baker and Joe Sloan, and I know that might be a cop out because LSU is not considered traditionally middle tier. But I think that's a team that I think they will win that game against Clemson, and I think that they end up being an 11-1 team. I think they're that good with Garrett Nussmeier. I think defensively, Baker is going to do a great job. He's finally got his guys that he wanted. He can call the defense that he wanted. And even Joe Sloan, I think that was a learning curve for the offensive coordinator last year to figure out what exactly everything that comes with being a play caller in the SEC. And I think it was like drinking out of a fire hydrant from year one. And I think it's vastly different coming here in year 2. So to me, I know I feel like the homer here and the easy answer, but I still ultimately go to LSU until somebody shows me something different. Because, that's what I love about SEC Media Days is you can always feel like there's a different vibe around a coach. And you can tell when certain teams – I remember when, Mark Stoops one year – got all pissed off in our ESPN staff meetings. And I was like, what is going on behind the scenes? And he's like, no one's giving us any type of credit. And it was that, interaction I had with him behind the scenes. I didn't even make it on camera that I was like, oh, Kentucky's going to be really good. And Kentucky ended up winning 10 games that year. So, you do learn a lot within the lines when we go into SEC Media Days over here in a couple of weeks.
All right. What perceived top tier team would you not be surprised takes a step back?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm not sold on Alabama. I'll be honest with you. I think and this is almost more of an organizational thing right now. And it's not Kalen DeBoer, because I think that Kalen DeBoer is a damn good coach. I think he's a great human. I think that just the structure of boosters and whatnot have always recognized that Alabama was Alabama and they had Nick Saban, so they didn't have to kick it into a different gear. And I think they always just thought, well, everybody's going to come to play football for Alabama. And now it's probably as competitive as anything. So the boosters, the collectives, the NIL dollars and stuff like that, I think they're pretty far behind where maybe a Texas is, or maybe an A&M is, an LSU, a Georgia. And I think that ultimately, it might end up hurting them. And that's why this year, I think ultimately ends up having more pressure on Kalen DeBoer, because if all of a sudden you go 8-4, that doesn't cut it out there. They're not used to that right now. So, I think Alabama is one of those teams that I look at and I circle, and I'm a little worried about, this is a kind of a teetering of where they could be as far as, where we've known them all their over the last 10 years or so.
All right, PB, last thing for you. Let's talk Texas A&M for a moment. The promising start, the unfortunate finish, injuries derailed it, but it shouldn't just be injuries, defensive issues. Elko's taken over the defense. You've got a quarterback who really I don't think gets the credit that I think he deserves for being in the situation he was put in last year. Just your thoughts on A&M.
Yeah, it's so funny because I went to the A&M game, the Las Vegas Bowl, and it was almost as if they told Marcel, like, don't run. Like, we want to see what you can do as a passer. And I was kind of seeing how he's going to develop in that way. And I think that's really going to be one of the keys coming out this year. I like Elko because he reminds me of like Teddy Roosevelt. Like he doesn't like say a whole hell of a lot. It's like he'll speak softly and carry a big stick. Elko's never going to win a press conference, but you just feel like he's an old school mentality football guy. I think that him getting his hands back on the defense is monstrous because I think for some guys, there's a certain you hate giving up that power and that control of what you truly are really good at. And the fact that he's going to be back doing that, I think gives him a little bit more juice. So, but the problem is, again, I'm flying as blindly into this season as I ever have before. I could see them being all the way to a 10-2 team. I can see them being 7-5 this year. And I think that's kind of, am I wrong in that? I mean, just
No.
am I first? Is that the band of success that you would give? I mean, I don't. There's too much talent on this team to go less than 7 wins, and I don't think the schedule is, the hardest schedule I've ever seen. It's not like Florida's schedule this year. It feels like 8-4, 9-3 is if I had to really, pin something on it right now. And I think there's going to be a lot of good teams that are going to be 8-4, 9-3 on this team this year.
I'm closer to 8-4 right now, but I can make an argument for 10-2. I can make a case for 7-5, but here, just hear me out for a second.
Yeah.
When there's a lot of questions, you've got to get those questions answered, right? And I have questions about the defensive line. I don't think they're huge questions, but I have questions about the defensive line. I have questions about the defensive backs because they struggled last year. I think that it's fixed, but I got to see it. And I got questions about their road games. You got to go to Baton Rouge where you haven't won since '94. You got to go to Texas, and you got to go to Notre Dame. Those are 3 top 10 teams. And you've struggled on the road the last few years. They won it last year twice, thank goodness, because it was years before that. But so I think about that, and then I'm like, you should win your games at Kyle Field, but South Carolina's good, Florida's good, right? These are Auburn beat you last year, so I can absolutely. And by the way, on Marcel put you in positions to win not the South Carolina game, but put you in a position to beat Auburn, but your defense failed you. Put you in position to beat USC, but your defense failed you. I think, and he had similar numbers to DJ Lagway. So he's got to develop as a passer, but I don't think he was the problem last year. So if you can answer those questions, I could see a 10-2 scenario, but those road games really worry me.
I would rather, if I'm Aggies right now, I would rather have the question marks on defense and have Elko as your guy, as opposed to being like, man, offensively, I just don't think that we're going to be able to do something. I mean, look at Brent Venables, right? Yep. Venables' defensive was good at Oklahoma, but offensively they were terrible. Well, how do you fix that with a defensive-minded coach who's just, not set in his ways? But I think for Elko, if you're going to say, hey, somebody's going to be able to put it together with duct tape and baling wire to figure it out when the offense is pretty good. I mean, Elko, there's a reason why he has got 2 commas in his yearly salary. He's damn good on that side of the ball. So, give him some credit for that.
PB, I appreciate you, man. We'll talk next month at SEC Media Days.
We'll see. I'm going to call this shot. I'm going to call it that it's Arkansas versus Coastal Carolina, and that Arkansas ends the side. They end up winning it all. So.
Oh, wow. But, hey, the Coastal story has been pretty fun to watch, too, man.
Oh, dude, that Murray State, we're here at the same hotel as Oregon State. Again, there's a lot of bucket list items, and if you never had a chance to do it, even if you don't have a team in it, but especially when the Aggies make it back, everybody has to make it. It's once in a lifetime deal.
Appreciate you, man. Enjoy the trip.
See you guys.
Yep. Peter Burns on the Buppy's Catering Hotline.